Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. On this week's episode, we're looking at our away win. Yes, I said away win against Valor in our last game. We did have a game against York that we didn't get a chance to talk about because I just couldn't bring myself to talk about another drab, boring game. No, I'm joking. I had some stuff going on, and Derek was away as well, and I just didn't want to hang out with Dave on my own. So, anyway, Derek and Dave are here to pick apart the game last weekend and look forward to the game against Ottawa. And then last night was the season. Ending us the season last game of the season for the Tide, so Derek's going to give us a little brief overlook at that too, or maybe just talk a little bit about their season and how it didn't really live up to expectations. How's it going, lads? Sorry about my long intro there.
Good, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Wonderful, Anthony, and not too many people want to hang out with me one on one, so
Yeah,
you're in a big audience.
it's your personality, Dave. It'll always go
Sure.
against it, you know. This was such an odd game. We when you look at the stats, like Valor had 66% possession. We were kind of up against it for quite a long portion of the game. So, were you surprised at like how we kind of were so defensive, or is this like our MO with our away? Is this like the way we set up now for away games?
I think it's absolutely the way we're setting up for away games, and this is what we're going to see in the playoffs. So we are trying to entice teams forward so we can break on them with Rhea, Vitor when he's healthy, or whoever else is playing in that space, and Tiago when he's back. And I think that's probably when we look our best. And when we saw Tiago come on, that's when we looked back to, okay, this is what the team is supposed to be. So you really saw us missing him until he came on today. That was during the match. I think that's it.
Probably, frankly, too, a bit of a pragmatic adjustment to the players that were available for this game in particular. So, I mean, I think going into this one, frankly, I think the Discord was a bit of doom and gloom because there were so many players unavailable through injury or suspension. And I mean, we effectively started five center backs, but nonetheless, they came through. So yeah, I think Dave's right that it's partly this is the way we play, but I think in this game in particular, the reality was we didn't have a lot of pace. We didn't have true wing backs. We had kind of center backs playing as wing backs, and so probably a pragmatic adjustment to that as well to play more defensively.
Derek, I know that you've been known to not be the biggest fan of Biello. It's I do have evidence of this. I've screenshot a lot of stuff you say about him. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on like he actually had a decent game here. I thought like he was playing like a way more advanced than what we're normally used to. I think we always see him as a central midfielder, but he was more of like in the DS role this time around. I just wondering what you thought of his game.
Yeah, we definitely. And I mean, in fairness, he hasn't had a lot of starts, right? So he's kind of come on late and hadn't hadn't really impressed me, particularly in the cameos he has had. But I do think he had an excellent game here. And like you said, he's mostly played as either a six or an eight for us so far. And in this game, he was playing more as a 10 because of the injury to Vitor. So seemed to thrive a bit more in that role. So maybe that's a welcome adjustment. So.
What did you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, all the stats would back that up. He had an assist, two big chances created, five recoveries, two clearances, two interceptions. So I thought he did admirably going in there. And again, didn't I don't think he's ever done poorly when he's come in, but to Derek's point, he's coming in for Isaiah or for Lorenzo, and those are big shoes to fill for a guy like that that's still trying to find his feet in the professional game. But I actually thought this was one of his better games. And when I originally watched it live, I was like, eh. But then when I watched back on replay, he was doing a lot of stuff that was really excellent. So that was great to see.
Yeah, I think him and Perlman were quite a good combo. I think they complement each other quite well, and I
The
think
best part about that was when they scored the goal, they did the Degeneration X
yeah.
point to each other. So I was like, yeah, go
Saw
on,
that.
lads. Yeah.
I actually enjoy that too. But yeah, I think like it's kind of nice that it kind of gives us like an option that we those guys can kind of play together. We had Kareem playing in this kind of hybrid wing back kind of role. What did you think of his performance this game? I know that in the game against York, a lot of people were kind of like didn't think. I thought he had a decent game against York, to be perfectly honest with you. And we have kind of seen him playing left back with us before, so I think he was okay. A lot of people maybe not so much, but it's kind of you're being put into situations you're not used to. But I actually think he had a decent game here too.
Yeah, I think he got an assist out of it as well. And so, it's not an easy transition to make, to go from playing as left-sided center back to a true wing back role. And I think he would probably admit it's not his natural position, and that getting up and down the field is not normally his kind of stock in trade. But I thought he had a very respectable performance in this one. So.
Yeah, I think we saw another cameo from JGL, which kind of reminded us a little bit about what he can actually bring to the team. I thought he had a really good performance, but it was something about that first half. I did not enjoy watching it. Like, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but we got to call it as we see it, right? And it was I've never seen it so many unforced errors. Lorenzo didn't seem at the races at all. It was kind of an odd start from us, wasn't it?
Yeah, Lorenzo was lucky to stay on the field.
Yep.
He had several fouls in the second half when he took down the guy for the free kick right in the middle. I thought he was out, and very lucky to stay on. And actually shocked that we left him on, but then I'm like looking at the bench going, well, what else are you going to do unless you pull Biello back at that point? So not a great game from him. Isaiah, however, was on fire. Like he was having a great game. So this was just what I found out. Like we had six, I thought, like really, really high quality chances in that match, but they were all from really quick breaks. Lorenzo played that long ball to Rea that just bounced up too high for him to get to. He was taking forever to come down, and the defender managed to get across. We had Isaiah with two shots inside the box that were great opportunities for him. And one other player had like another great opportunity. It might have been at Mekadesh on a corner or something. So we created all the great chances except for the one that Russian ass saved really, really well,
Yeah.
which was actually which I know we'll get to in a sec. But then there was nothing in between. Like there was no half chances. Like we had those six chances, which is really good for a game like that. But then there was nothing in between. There was no flow. We just guys were looking at each other, and maybe it was all those guys playing in different positions. Like it just looked weird until Thiago subbed in, and then it was a totally different game.
I really thought that Valor really played into a trap. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that obviously they've had a little bit of form lately, and they've been kind of half decent at home. So I think that they kind of have to press forward because like they're trying to build a bit of momentum and stuff like that. But it really just gave us the opportunities, and they just looked so wide open when we were able to break on them. It's there's just so much work for that club to do in the off season, and they're at risk of like losing some players and stuff like that over it. So you worry about them a little bit, but obviously we took our chances really well. As I said, like we created some really good chances, but they were just so poor. So my question to you, Derek, is like, would you worry for us like playing like this in the playoffs? Because obviously the teams who are going to be playing the playoffs are not going to be Valor, basically.
Yes and no. I mean, like obviously, I'd hope we'd have a healthier lineup and be able to play players in their more natural positions. I don't think there's anything wrong with being pragmatic and on the road in the playoffs and playing defensively and as Dave said, inviting teams to kind of come at you and hit them on the counter. So no, I don't see a problem with it. There's a lot of pressure, particularly I think in the playoffs on teams to entertain a little bit, to entertain the home supporters, and so you can, you know, with the right tactics, I think you can kind of play off of that and force them to take risks. So yeah, I wouldn't see a problem with doing this on the
I,
road in the playoffs
I
if we get a road game. So
I think for us, having had 3 years of Stephen Hart as our coach, I don't really care about entertaining football. I just want to see us win something. You know what I mean? Like I obviously when Patrice came along, he promise exciting attacking football. We've had some of it in spurts. We've had some of it where it's been kind of dire. But coming into the playoffs, I could not give a rat's arse about entertaining football. I just want us to win. I think the city just needs it. So, looking to we'll come back to Rushnas in a second, but just kind of want to get your thoughts. Like looking to the game on Saturday, how would you guys approach it? Because Ottawa and Ford have kind of had a little bit of a blip. They've kind of had a bunch of draws. They haven't been winning games, and that's probably just a lot of we're coming into the playoffs and we're just kind of taking our foot off the gas a little bit. But how would you guys play it, like coming into the game on Saturday?
I mean, I would expect to see exactly the same formation in that 5-2-3. I wouldn't expect to see any change. Obviously, Telfer will be back. So my questions are going to be in that 5-2-3, like we pretty much everyone else, and assuming Tiago is healthy. And after he got taken down for that penalty, I was worried again. But so my two questions are who plays at that left wing back and who plays that second number 10. So is Vitor back? That might just eliminate that. It might just be Telfer. Like this just could be a numbers game. You've got basically Wes, Telfer, Vitor and then So for that back left position. So two into those four spots. I think everything else at this point is done and dusted. I don't think you're going to see a change. I think we're going to go with what suits us well. We're going to defend our butts off. And like, this is kind of our last game to make a statement because we do win this game and Calgary loses, which like the way Vancouver plays, like who knows, right? They're going to, they do to them what they did to us. Like we actually have a chance to steal that third, even though in the last pod, you both talked about it. Like no one wants to be third for some reason. Everyone just kept losing. So I think there's a great opportunity for us. But again, I don't think it has to be entertaining, but we got to go for the win. Like we got to go for the win, right? Let's go get it.
Yeah, I think so too, Derek.
Yeah, but I mean, both teams have everything to play for in this game, obviously. So it's not like Ottawa's going to go for it. I expect them to put their best 11 out and try to compete for that shield. I don't know in that scenario who the greater pressure is on. You've also got two players on Ottawa. Salter's already kind of locked up the all-time league goal scoring record, but he's one goal away from 20. So you can see him maybe wanting to push for that goal. I believe Rodriguez is one assist away from taking the all-time assists record. So I mean, they've got every motivation to put on a show. So it'll be an interesting matchup from that perspective. And like Dave said, Vancouver's been in good form lately and seems to have gained a bit of confidence, so they could give and have nothing to lose, so they could give Cavs a bit of trouble. So third is potentially still in play. I mean, there's a scenario where York could end up third because they win the tiebreak against Cavs. So everybody's got everything to play for at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that there is a lot to play for. That we're not just going to have like dead rubber games, which is kind of nice. That we're going to see people going for it. But like for us, the good thing is I guess Telford didn't really play too much for Trinidad when he's away. So that's kind of good for him. For us, I guess that like he's going to be pretty healthy and not too tired from the two games that they had down there. So that'll be good news for his biggest fan, Patrice. So yeah, Derek, I know you're on the if you're available for the presser tomorrow, maybe that'd be a good question to ask about Diaz because we haven't really. I don't think last match they said they released don't know, they normally put the pre-match. They put like the thing together to let you know what's going on with players. I don't think they did that. I don't think they did that, did they?
Yeah, and he wasn't even on the bench for that game, so I have a hard time seeing him going from not even on the bench to starting lineup. I mean, I think ideally probably the best we can hope for is to see him fit enough to be on the bench and maybe come in as a sub. And like Dave, I think the big question marks are, who's your left back, who's your striker, who's your second 10? Is Thiago fit enough to start? Is do you see Telfer then slotting in as your left wing back and potentially Wes as your other number 10, or did Biello just earn himself potentially another start? So there's a few options there, a few possibilities.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered Biello actually, to be honest, Derek, which is an interesting shout. Like it'd just be interesting to see how they play against that back three with with Ottawa, who are young and quite quick, but I think we've shown we can play through them. And I still feel like Ottawa is a decent matchup for us. For me, Calgary is the only one that I'm like, every time we play them, I feel like we have no shot against them, especially
Yeah.
if we don't get obvious handball penalties called for us in Calgary. But I would like to see, I'd like to see us go for it with these guys. Obviously, you don't want the reverse of like, you're trying to get the win at home and then they start tearing you apart at the back. So I'm really hoping that TMG, Mekadesh, and Jefferson are going to be pushed up on Salter and Rodriguez and giving them a heck of a time in that space. And then Perlman, those guys are going to have to play well against those wingers. Like, I think everyone's just going to have to be on high alert and hopefully they can take them down.
Yeah, so just going back to Rushnaz, obviously Yazdi was away with Algeria A. They're playing against Palestine. I think they had two games, and great for him. Congratulations. So do you think Rushnaz did enough in this game? Because I think this is like his first start of the season, wasn't it? Do you think he's done enough to trouble Yesley, like in the future as our number one, or like what do you see him just as a solid backup? Where do you see this guy? Like, because he's been around the club for a couple of years, and obviously he had Jan keeping him out of the team like last year and the year before, and now he's got Yesley who's kind of like cemented that spot for himself. So do you just see him kind of as sticking around as a backup, or do you think that he's number one material? What do you guys think of him?
He's got a lot of work to do on his touch. That was the weakest part of his game. I think saving wise, his hands look great. He had that one big save with his legs, took up a lot of space in the net, looked very comfortable on the crosses. Good talking, good command. Didn't like lay down for Lorenzo when Lorenzo was yelling for the ball like 5 yards in front of him, which that was good. But every time the ball went back to him, it just looked like it was taking him a bit of extra time to get that ball out of his feet, to make his decision, play his ball. And he's just not as strong a distributor as Yesley or even Jam from last year, right? So I can't see it, but to me, like that's the kind of guy that needs to go to second division Finland and be starting, or like a league like that, and just get minutes, right? Like sitting behind them at this age, he's still got tons of time to get his experience, but like he's got to go get it now.
Derek?
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly heard people making the argument that he should get more starts. I mean, I don't think it's unusual in football for one keeper to get pretty much every start unless they're unavailable for some reason. So soccer isn't hockey. You don't split the load between your starter and your backup. Your starter plays almost every game unless they're unavailable or you've got some cup tie you want to throw your backup into. So not unusual that he's not getting many starts. And I agree with Dave's assessment of him as a player. I think as a shot stopper, he's great. I think he's got some work to do on his distribution. And as Dave says, the only way he's gonna get a chance to do that is going and getting minutes somewhere. And I don't necessarily see it happening here, but yeah, there might be opportunities for him elsewhere.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's definitely one of those. He's not quite at the level just yet. Like I mean, he came in like last year for a couple of games too, and I think that he was excellent. But in this league, you need to be starting. That's kind of the way it is. Like nobody wants to be the backup. You know what I mean? So, and like that's why Yesley like moved from where he was. In Ottawa, or wherever. Like when he was back up to Nate Ingham, right? And I think he's probably going to have to move, and we'll just bring in like an AUS keeper or something like that as a backup. But yeah, he's a good lad, and he's been loyal to us, right? I mean, like he doesn't seem to ever cause any trouble. Like we had other keepers who were pissing and moaning about not starting games, so it's kind of you got to respect his professionalism, right? So, just before we move on to the Tides, I just wanted to, you did mention Sammy Salter there, Dave. What did you think of his big move to Sweden?
Oh man, this is great. I mean, this is great for the league, right? And we are all kind of having a laugh that, of course, no one knows how much money any of these inter-league transfers go for, and I'm still like and even when I was employed at the club, I never saw any one piece of paperwork. So let's just put that out there for everyone. Like I have no idea. Like, was this a bag of balls? Did they pay the administration fee to Canada Soccer? Like, I'm not sure what it is. Like, is it just like we'll do this because he wants to move on, like JGL did a couple of years ago? He just wanted to go like closer to home or whatever. So it's an amazing move when a guy can work down his contract and get that free. So great for him. He's going to someone he knows over in Sweden. Like this is like a decent team in the league. Someone was saying they're like third or fourth, challenging for like European Championships, not Champions League, but the next one down. So great for him. I'm going to be interested to see if this is like he's gone and that's the level, or he's gone and you see him come back on a midseason loan to Ottawa, right? Like that's kind of where I think it could go with them, with strikers especially. Like this guy, it's just hard. It's just hard to fit in. New language. I think he's got the skills, and he's a great poacher, and he does a lot of things really well. So I have a lot of time for Sammy. I think we all wish he could have scored more goals for us for another year, but that's just what it is with this league. And I wish him all the luck. I hope he does really well, and we see more players take that route, hopefully on a paid transfer.
Yeah, I think he's out of contract, so it was a free transfer, which is unfortunate for us because I think the only thing we really got from Ottawa in exchange for him was we got a sell on clause. So had they been able to sell him on to another club, Wanderers would have seen a percentage of that. Instead, we end up giving Ottawa a 20-goal scorer and get nothing in return for it, really. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. He's always, and like Dave said, I mean, it could go well. It could wind up with him back in Ottawa on a loan if it doesn't work out. But he's certainly grown by leaps and bounds since his time with the Wanderers. He's really rounded out his game in a number of ways, and if he can continue on that kind of growth trajectory, then yeah, he might well stick in Sweden. We'll see.
I'll say this, like, he's 25, right? So it was kind of like now or never for him, really, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like moving to Europe, he's a little bit older than most kids who kind of go over. But I will give credit to him and to Ottawa, because Ottawa stuck with him. I mean, like when he got there first, he wasn't really scoring that many goals, and they had other guys who were coming in, and he was kind of sitting on the bench for quite a few games, and he's really worked on his. You can see like how much he's worked on his game. His distribution is amazing. His touch has come along. I think it was a good time for him to leave us. Yeah, I don't think he would have ended up being a 20-goal striker had he stayed here. I think that you kind of just run a course naturally with people, and I think that the changes that we were bringing in, it kind of made sense for us to kind of move him on. I don't think anybody here would have saw him as a 20-goal striker, as you said, Derek. So I mean, he's worked really hard at his game. He was he was good when he was here. I just don't think he had the distribution that is needed to hit 20 goals, to be perfectly honest. Like he didn't have a David Rodriguez, right? But I think
Yep.
I think it's a really good move for him. It's a good league. I think it's better than him going to the Dutch league or something like that and just sitting on the bench. I think he might actually have a chance of getting a game or two to show what he's about. So I really hope that he doesn't come back as um, like a mid-season loan thing back to Ottawa or
Like a
anything like that.
Bustos, right? Like
Yeah,
we don't want the Bustos situation. You go
yeah,
for that big money and then
and
nothing
Borges
happens.
as well, right? I mean,
Borders,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think who's is it Diaz that plays for Pacific that was at Vancouver? He went for big money as well, didn't he? Over to
Yep.
Norway or to Sweden. So I really hope that it works out for him. He's a very quiet lad. He's obviously come out of his shell a little bit because with the celebrations and on, you love to see it, right? And
But he looks super fit. Like he looks strong,
yeah,
right? And that's why I think a player like that with he's got decent height for a striker. You guys have already talked about all the tangibles, but like you could tell something has changed in his mind too. Like, hey, I'm like a number one striker. So I feel like he has that going in now. Like hopefully we don't see that on the weekend.
yeah.
Hopefully we just kick lumps out of him. And hopefully the boys take a couple of yellow cards to do that, not Lorenzo. But that would be like I just hope there's more like this for the league. I hope it's again the
Yeah.
start of that, but we're so young and as a league and it's just encouraging to see this start happening.
Well, the fact that like leagues in Europe are watching the league here, and we've seen players pop up in Ireland, and we've seen players pop up in Holland and Poland, and random places really when you think about it. That like why would
Mm.
they be looking at the Canadian Premier League? But the league has obviously got itself a good reputation for the players and the professionalism. So yeah, long may it continue. Like eventually. you know, we want to keep our own players here, and we don't want to put, we are where we are, and we kind of have to be realistic that when somebody comes along, they hit like a streak, they're probably going to move on. It's just kind of the nature of football, I guess. But yeah, congrats to him. I wish him all the best after this season, obviously. You can fuck right off for the rest of this season, but yeah, so good for him. So yeah, so Derek, switching, let's bring the mood down a little bit. After being happy, we thought I just make it a little bit depressed. But you were talking beforehand. You didn't actually get to go to the game last night. It was the last one. We had a little we have like a little group chat, and one of the things that you mentioned was like having the last game of the season on a Wednesday. It's kind of shit, isn't it? Like I mean, like the crowd looked decent. Like I looked at the highlights because I had the kids last night, so I couldn't really watch the game live. But it's just like that's a Saturday game. You know what I mean? That's like get the pack the place out as much as the first game. You know what I mean? Like it was weird, but what did you think of the game? And we'll get to the season overall after.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall the scheduling's left a bit to be desired in the NSL this season. We've had a lot of midweek games, and
Yeah.
myself and others have missed a lot of games as a result. I mean, I travel for work, and so I'm often gone midweek, and so midweek evening games are not the ideal. And as you said, particularly for the last game of the season, and they've got the season-ending games are stretched out over 3 or 4 days rather than being all held on the same day at the same time. So I think there was probably scheduling issues there. I imagine the Tides probably played maybe second fiddle to the Wanderers this year in terms of getting sort of the prime spots or prime times at the Wanderers grounds. But still, some work to be done on that front, I think, next season, because I think league's got to be realistic about the fact that midweek games are nice as kind of a few times a season, but for that to be a regular occurrence and to go weeks without games, and then all of a sudden you've got, you know, we had played on Saturday and then we play again on Wednesday and then we're done. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, yeah. Not the best performance. Ottawa is a legitimate title contender this season. Up until now, they hadn't actually taken 3 points at the Wanderers grounds, so this was their first win season against us at home. A poor first half, really. A lot of turnovers on our part. Just pass, give away, pass, give away, hoof the ball long, the other team recovers it. So we were challenged to maintain possession. I found that our defenders were really kind of sitting off their players quite a bit. And if you're sitting off the players, usually it's because you're trying not to get beat for pace. But somehow, even though we were sitting off them, they were still beating us for pace. So we'd sit off them, and they'd have a chance at a long shot and or be able to get past us. So defending wasn't great. Did look a lot livelier in the second half, particularly once they got the goal. You could see the confidence kind of came back into the team, and all of a sudden they were pressing for that tying goal. So it's clear at least part of that's a confidence issue. Because as I said, once they got the goal, they were really pressing for a second. But yeah, it's been a challenging season to say the least. I think we'll do a bit of more of a retrospective on it next week. But they're winless in 15 games. That's obviously not an acceptable standard of performance, and I'd expect to see significant changes in both the roster and frankly, hopefully on the footballing operations side next season as well, because I think there's a lot of evidence of just kind of maybe the standard of coaching and frankly the roster construction not being the best.
So a question for you then. Like, do you know much about like the way the contracts were signed? Like, were a lot of them? A lot of people have been kind of asking, like, because it's, if you went with 1-1, where obviously it gives them options to, you don't want to see people leave. Like you don't want to see people lose their jobs, obviously, but that's just the way football is, unfortunately.
Yep.
And you can't say anything after the season they've had. But do you have any idea on the contract? Was everybody's put on a 1 year or?
Not a clue. The league has not been, and I think it's something they need to work on. Um, I'd say they've been, in certain respects, they've even been less transparent than the CPL on certain issues around the rules and roster rules and that sort of thing, which is a pretty low bar to begin with, because the CPL doesn't exactly set a high standard for disclosure and
Yeah,
transparency. And the Wanderers have kind of been the gold standard of the league in terms of in the CPL in terms of disclosing terms of at least the length of player contracts. And granted, that didn't start, I think, until about, I think in the first season, I don't think we knew how long anybody with the Wanderers was on contract either. So I
yeah.
think that really kind of started in the second season. And I'd like to see the Tides emulate that a bit more. At the moment, I have no idea how long anyone's contract is. We got a hint in a season ticket renewal advert that Annika Leslie is back next year. Because they sort of had her, you know, uh, in one of those ads saying, "I'll be back next year, will you?" sort of thing. And that's the only indication we've gotten of any player being renewed. I mean, again, I think they're going to have to take a hard look at the roster. I think there's probably, five or six players you could make a strong case for you would want to come back. There's probably a few more that are maybes that are on the bubble, and then quite a few that, frankly, I just don't think. I don't know if this that they weren't at the standard of the league or just didn't gel properly with the team or whatever, but that would probably be moving on if you're being frank about it. So
So for the supporters, have you like obviously it's the last game of the season. Probably gonna be a last chance for people to see these guys, right?
yeah.
Because I said it's gonna change. Are you guys organizing anything where you're gonna like say goodbye to the players, or it was that it like last night, or
There was some so they did organize some particular things last night. There was a gift that they'd arranged for Erin McLeod as kind of a thank you for her service. There's some stuff that was done in terms of the end of the game and thanking certain players. I don't think anything is planned kind of beyond that. I know that the club has organized a vote for Supporters Player of the Year, and that's ongoing. So that that voting will take place, and obviously that award will be given out at some point. And I imagine the supporters will have a role in that as well. But I don't think to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing planned beyond that. So
I hope they do something because no matter what happened this year, that they'll always be part of the fabric of the club because they were the first players
yep.
here. Whether they got it right, whether they got it wrong, you can't deny the effort, right? And it's playing the game in the middle of October in Halifax isn't like on a Wednesday isn't always the most funnest thing in the world, I imagine. So, I really hope that there's something for them that they kind of get that acknowledgement of, like thank you for
Yep.
whatever, you know what I mean? So,
And I do know the league has some stuff planned too in terms of so for the final, they've got the finals being held in Toronto. So it's sort of I guess you wouldn't say a neutral site game, but it's being hosted in Toronto. And they're planning to do some stuff to acknowledge kind of the supporters groups as
okay.
part of that. So supporters will get a bit of a shout out. There's a banner that's kind of in the works that's going to have representation from each of the six main supporters groups and stuff like that, and some special events that they've got planned around that. So I think they're trying to hype that up into more of an event that's designed to attract more than just the supporters of the two clubs that happen to be playing in the finals. So that should be fun and interesting too.
Nice, nice. So yeah, so maybe next week we'll go over maybe like your player of the year, your favorite moment of the year, and maybe your coach of the year for the Tides.
We've got
Uh,
two to choose from.
be interested to see which one you pick, to be perfectly honest with you. So just before I let you go, Derek, obviously the reason why you weren't on the pod last week is you were in Dublin for Bohemians against Schalke. Just kind of wanted to get your views of how the game went. It was a big win for your scummy team there. So yeah, I was just wondering what the atmosphere was like because Schalke brought like 2,000, 2,500 fans
Yeah.
to the game. So yeah, what was the atmosphere like?
It was cracking. It was a good atmosphere. So as you said, a lot of Schalke supporters came over for that. They're a well-supported club, although they're in the German second tier. I think in terms of the number of members that they have, that they're actually like the fifth or sixth biggest club in Germany. So they're kind of traditionally a Bundesliga side that's maybe kind of fallen on hard times a little bit and dropped to the second division, but they enjoy pretty big support. They had regular supporters there. There were ultras, so multiple supporters groups. There is an away end at Dalymount. It's pretty small, and so they were also given the
Des
Des
Kelly?
Kelly stand, which is behind the goal there. And then some of them, I think, must have picked up tickets on resale or something because there was a few Germans kind of interspersed in the home end, which was maybe not the ideal situation. But it was my son's first experience with a game where there's actually like flares and actually legitimate game long chanting and two large supporters groups really chanting back and forth at each other. So it was a great atmosphere for that. And the Germans would be chanting away in German, and then the Irish would chant back like we don't even know what you're saying. I don't what the hell is that kind of thing. And so there was a bit of banter back and forth, which was great. So it was a fun atmosphere. Great to see the Bohs get a win. It is only a friendly. Shockingly, there was not a commemorative jersey for the match itself.
Not yet.
Yeah. Although,
Speaking of the ultras, I don't know if you saw the video of them walking down Abbey Street. There was a big gang of them. There was like 1,000 of them walking down Abbey Street, like chanting and like. So Abbey Street is like a big main thoroughfare off O'Connell Street in Dublin, and there's like a Lewis line with like trams and stuff like that, and they basically took over the street and marched down it, which it's quite a ways away from Dalymount, to be perfectly
yep.
honest with you. But there was like a bit of a controversy because there was two English journalists who had been at a different parade taking photographs, and they were walking down O'Connell Street and heard all this hubbub and went over to take photos of what they thought was a parade, but was like 1,000 German ultras walking down the street, and they stopped to take photographs. And like, I don't know what they thought was going to happen, but there's like 1,000 German fans walking and basically trample all over them, and there's a bit of controversy about it. And Schalke had to put out a statement about it. But overall, like, I mean, when you've got 2,500 fans in the city, and that was the only kind of blip on the overall atmosphere. I think that's a pretty good, solid game day. I think.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We saw some. There was we were coming down obviously from Gravedigger's pub, so we were coming down from north of the stadium, and there was a bunch at one of the pubs by the canal, and they did the same where they decided it was time to leave and they marched kind of in formation down the street. So they were doing it in a few different parts of the city. As you said, there was a lot of them there. In this week's lessons of why you don't believe everything you read online, I have since seen that video posted of them marching down the street, posted in as example of immigrants running amok in Dublin, and everyone's posting on these American anti-immigrant Facebook pages, and some people having to post and say, no, these are German football ultras.
Yeah.
For a friendly in Dublin, which means absolutely nothing to most
Was
Americans,
it on Truth
right?
Social?
Yeah, something like that.
Hey, before we bust out, guys, I don't know if you guys knew this, but congratulations in order to suburban under 17 boys.
Yes.
Who won the national championship. So congrats to Talal, and there's a few Wanderers under 21 players in that group, or under 23, sorry. So that was amazing to see. And then there was also one of the women's senior teams came in second at the women's masters, I believe. So a couple of girls I used to coach way back in the day were in that squad. And if you one day, it'd be nice to see Soccer Nova Scotia actually list those on the website. That would have been good to actually read about after the games. But a lot of like high placements, even like PEI under 15 girls came second or something, or won nationals. Wow. Like amazing. So there's just some really great Nova Scotia and PEI particularly stories. But congrats to all those teams that worked so hard this year and then got great results at nationals. Well done.
They're trying to take credit for one of the wins there. Oh, a couple of women I coached back in the day.
Listen, 1990. I'm not saying that like 2001 to 2002 was their formative years.
I'm gonna be doing the same in a few years. Andy.
Oh yeah, we're waiting for it.
If some kid that I coached for one season
plays for the Bohs women,
yeah.
I'm telling you two would be the dream team for the ties next year. There you go.
Oh my God.
I called it. So yeah, it's it's kind of crunch time on Saturday. So let's see how things go. Hoping for a win. It'd be a nice way to start the weekend, I guess, right? So yeah, that's come on you Wanderers, come on you Tides.
Come on you Blues.
Folks, please. Right foot, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to foot.